Can you hear me?
Yes, there you are. We can
Okay.
hear you.
Hey, Mark.
Hey,
How you doing,
Is
man?
good. How are you guys doing?
Great.
hanging in there, man. Yeah. What's new and exciting in your world?
Oh, just enjoying the nice weather here and doing some practicing and enjoying some time off. We don't have any band activities until it looks like there's a fall tour, so I don't know any more
Uh,
information, but
we could talk more about it on the show. I know you don't have any details, but I'm hoping there'll be some more stateside shows. You know, it'd
yeah,
be
that's
nice to.
all the details I have. I don't even know
Okay.
where it's at. I don't know anything about it.
All right. Well, when you do, please let us know.
I will.
Mhm.
Yeah, because if you're coming around, I'd love to see you guys again. That you guys put on such a great show, and
Oh, thank you.
that was a really fun venue too. I loved how intimate that venue in Wisconsin was. That was a
Yeah, that was a
really
great venue. Love that. And that was a great promoter, everything about it. That was good.
well, Mark.
Mark,
We're so glad to have you back on. Thank you for taking more time to be with us. We really appreciate it.
thank you, Mark.
Thank you guys for having me. I've been taking notes all week. Is that allowed?
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, no,
Got mine too. So,
no, that's wonderful. No, that's good. We're gonna have a good time, and so we'll do our intro. You know how this works. We're gonna do our intro, and we will get right on with it. How's that?
Sounds good.
Excellent.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is him from Sermon, and you're listening to Heavy Metal Horror.
I am Montag, master of illusion. What goes up must come down, but not always.
this is Chop Top. Keep it heavy.
And you know Mark Briody.
Hi, I'm
And
Mark Briody.
and
Kim,
you've been watching. Oh, go ahead, man.
oh, Mark Briody, happy to be here, and this is going to be fun.
We're gonna have a great time. And you are watching and listening to Heavy Metal Horror. Oh, kitties, kitties, kitties. Woo. We are back for another Slugfest. This is Slugfest number 7.
Wow.
Yes, this is a very popular format. Our fan is screaming more Slugfest. So tonight we want to welcome back Mark Briody of Jag Panzer, of Jag Panzer.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, yes. And yes, I got this off of the your Bandcamp off your page, the official
Yep.
Jag Panzer page. So um, along with all the wonderful postcards,
Nice.
yes, from promotion of the latest greatest album. Um, yeah. So so we were talking a little beforehand, informally, but we'll let you talk a little bit more about what is new and exciting in your world. You said you have been doing some practicing. Just anything specific, or just to kind of keep the digits liquid.
Yeah, just well, I'm told there's a tour coming up. I don't have any information on it. I think it's in the fall. But yeah, I don't have anything to do with the touring. I have like everything to do with recording and songwriting, and nothing to do with the touring. But we have one coming up. I just got some sketches for the new merch today, and those it's very cool. I
Nice.
what I did is I took, if you look at all the Jag Panzer album, there's usually like a central character on it. Like Ample Destruction's got the woman with the sword, and the EP's got the one with the chainsaw, and the Hallowed's got the guy with the gun, the futuristic guy, and
Yeah.
so for this merch is I had an artist take all the characters like it's a mob charging at you,
Thanks.
and it looks really
Okay.
cool. So I saw some sketches today.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah,
So
you're going to
is
be able to pick out, well, there's the guy from the Hallowed, or there's the guy from Casting the Stones, and
Celebrating your whole history.
there's the
I was
Yeah.
gonna say,
Mechanized Warfare guy. Yeah,
it almost seems like we're having like the tour or the set list might be something from everything, a little bit of the whole discography of Jag Panzer.
yeah. It'll. This is Ample's 40th anniversary, so it'll probably be a little Ample heavy, but
Okay.
it definitely won't be an all Ample set. I am so against that personally. I don't know about my band. My bandmates might want to do it, but I am constantly shutting it down. I have no interest in playing that again. I don't know. People get very mad at me for saying that.
I think it's got to be a tough balance between, as an artist, as someone who's creative, as someone who's making this music, the joy that comes in playing, balancing with audience expectations. And you can't please everybody no matter what. I've been to shows, like I've been to Rush, put it on a 3-hour show, and I'll hear someone complain, "Oh man, they didn't play that." I'm like,
Yeah.
are you insane? They just played their asses off for 3 hours, you
Yeah.
know? And so no matter what, you're gonna have someone say, "Oh, they didn't play enough off of mechanized warfare or whatever." Um, how do you deal with that kind of stuff? Or do you
Yeah,
even hear it?
it's tough because I get people that tell me the shows would be huge all ample, and we did it once before, and it's a difference of 300 people versus 302. I mean the crowd difference is so slight,
Hmm.
and but I totally understand the promoters wanting it. Understand completely.
Mhm.
They want to put on a special show, and that would certainly be a special show, and it's just I don't know. It's a musical. We play like 6 of the songs in the regular set anyway, so
Yeah,
you're going to get plenty of ample at any
yeah.
show. For me to learn the whole set would take me about 2 or 3 weeks of my time because I write a song, record it, and forget it.
Hmm.
So it would take me a while to really learn it the way it is on the record and play it properly. And so, yeah, you're just asking for 3 weeks of my time for a gig that's really not any bigger.
Right,
And
Right.
you hate to bring money into it, but you always have to. The money's no more either for it.
right.
So it's yeah, I understand the fans wanting it, but I just ask people to look at it from my point of view. You're just asking for 3 weeks of my time.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I when I see a band like Jag Panzer, I want to hear, like when we saw you last year, you were promoting the Hallowed. That was the set was Hallowed heavy, which I really loved because
Yes.
it was nice hearing those new songs, and Ken I know was really happy playing those new solos, and it was just you guys were just on. You played great. And so I don't go have any expectations going in. It's like I'm going to hear stuff that I don't ever hearing before. I've got some albums I like I listen to better than others, but I'm just there with no expectations. I just want to see the band I like and just enjoy the show. So maybe I'm different. I don't go in with any expectations. Like when Chop and I have seen bands like Iron Maiden, and there are a couple albums we wish, or a couple songs we wish they'd just take out of the
Yeah.
set list. Like
Yeah.
just stop playing the
Yeah.
Klansmen. Please,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, we've heard it. I even go with Hallowed Be Thy Names. Like I have heard it every show. I love
Yep.
the song, but you've got a great discography. Bring in something new.
Yep.
Mhm.
Um, so so whatever happens on this tour, I hope you can play some stateside shows. We had talked before about the challenges of playing stateside, how much more expensive it is, rather than like playing big festivals in Europe and stuff. But boy, I'd really love to see an extended Jag Panzer tour in the States. That would just be, or even a
Sweet.
even a 12 city run, Cleveland, Cleveland.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed and not pleasantly surprised when we played Tulsa this year, which was a great gig. I mean, a great time and great promoter. We wanted to play just a few other shows around that, and that's not something you'd bring an agent in or anything. So we thought let's just do it old school and let's call these clubs, these metal clubs, Denver. Um, we've never played Western Colorado, and they have a club that books metal. Yeah, we didn't hear back from any of them, like none.
Really?
Like we wanted to do 3 additional shows, a couple in Colorado, and I think I'm not sure if we wanted to do Kansas or Utah. We wanted to do an adjacent state, yeah, and we just heard nothing from any venue, which was
Wow.
a little disappointing because it
Yeah.
used to be, you know, back many, many, many decades ago, if you wanted to do a show, they would, look up your band, and if they thought you would draw, they'd tell you what dates they have available. But this was just nothing, just no response.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, we just last episode we interviewed Dawn of the Dead from Nun Slaughter. A great local Cleveland, devil metal band. And we talked about the Cleveland metal scene, and it is thriving. So if you want some, venues, numbers and venues for the Cleveland area after the show, or I can email them to you. But there's a lot of great places in here that would love to have a Jag Panzer show, and
Absolutely.
and some killer bands that around here who'd love to open for you. So just
Oh, I
throwing it out
love
there.
playing Cleveland. Cleveland is one of my, if not my favorite place to play in the United States.
Really?
Because, yeah, the
Wow.
first time we played in Cleveland, I like to just chat with people in line. And I probably talked to about 6 different people. I mean, really in depth metal discussion. Like, what are your favorite tracks on which Fine Stage Fright album? And what do you think of, the non-album track Dr. Fives from Angel Witch? I mean, I was having those kind of conversations with
Hmm.
everybody in line. I mean, it was incredible how knowledgeable everybody I talked to in Cleveland.
Really
Maybe I
cool.
picked the magical exact people, but I doubt it. I just think Cleveland is so educated and so supportive of metal. I mean, it was great. And every show we've ever played in Cleveland has been wonderful.
Oh, well, that's great.
So
Well,
cool.
hey, I have a sliver of hope that you might be returning to our side of the jungle one day. That would be fantastic. Um,
Absolutely.
but regardless, we're excited for you guys. I mean, the Hallowed is still doing well for you.
Yeah.
People still talking about it. I mean, it's such a great album.
Hmm.
Thank you. Yeah. Our music tends to take a while to gel. I mean, I always have to remind people that Ample Destruction got sort of middle of the road reviews initially. Um, so yeah, it takes a while for some people to come around. So yeah, I still hear from people regularly who are just listening to the Hallowed or just kind of gelling with it, I guess
Hmm.
is more accurate.
Yeah, well, you get a chance to have the story, and
Yeah.
and also the way that you bring it, and we talked a lot about this when we did our live reaction and when we've talked with you post then, but the way you use music to convey the animals' points of view, or the diving birds, and
Yeah.
stronger than you know, or just telling the story with the time changes and the syncopation, or the to kind of get the feel of what's happening in the story, and that really does a lot to make the full experience come to life. It's not just music, but the music sets the mood, and I think that's what really makes this album as strong as it is.
No, thank you.
Absolutely.
All right,
Yeah,
well,
we
oh,
put a yeah, we put a ton of effort into that album. I mean, really, really a ton of effort. But you're not going to please everybody. So, but
mm-mm.
I'm very happy with it, and my
Absolutely.
bandmates are, and that means a lot to me that I like it. I know
Yeah.
that sounds
Excellent.
so terrible to say that, but
Well, no, I
I mean,
mean your name's on it. I mean,
yeah,
you're
It's your
creating this
brand.
music, and you want to make sure first and foremost you got to be happy with it. Even if people didn't like it, at the end of the day, if you're a
yeah,
creative person, if you're happy with it, ultimately that's what's got to settle in and make you pleased. Like, look, I did this for me. I'm creating this music, and I can't control what people like or don't like, but I'm pleased with the outcome. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that means more than anything.
yeah. 'Cause
Hmm.
I got into playing metal. I didn't want to be a rock star. I don't care if I have a Ferrari or anything like that. I was so into metal, I just couldn't get enough of it, and the solution was to create more ourselves. Because there were so few bands that when we started writing songs, it was even before I heard the new wave of British heavy metal. So it was really like Sabbath with Dio, Judas Priest. I mean, it was
Hmm.
so few bands. So it
Hmm.
was really, I started writing and recording and playing metal just because I wanted to have more of it.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, when I introduce people to Jag Panzer and they say, what are they like? I said, well, they're like the American Iron Maiden, and
No,
then
thank
and
you.
then they get a context like, okay, because it's melodic, it's majestic, it's triumphant, and there's all these like
Yeah.
galloping beats. I mean, dually guitars. It's complicated music, but it's or complex rather. And you tell story songs, there's no like sex, drugs, rock and roll kind of stuff, which is, which
Refreshing.
yeah, I like, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I like Kiss in the day. Yeah, they're kind of funny, and Wasp, that's no problem. Hey, that's the thing. That's great. But at the end of the day, I'd really like to have someone who put a little more thought into writing a song that has little sense and tells a story, or um it, give me something a little more substantial, please. Thank you.
Yeah, we talked about that early in our career, and we all decided that if you want to hear sex, drug, women lyrics, there's no shortage.
Right.
So I mean, you just put on a Van Halen album, you get all that and brilliant guitar playing. So
Yeah.
there's nothing we could contribute to that.
Yeah, and you can't out Spinal Tap,
No.
right? As much as like Wasp tries, they get close.
Yeah.
I think Harder Faster is pretty close to that, or Manimal might be just about the most Spinal
Manimal.
Tap
Yeah.
song there is. So.
Or F like a beast. I'm not going to say the word, but yeah,
Right,
I think
right.
that was the first Wasp song I heard.
Yeah, it's like Lick My Love Pump. It's
Yeah.
right up there, right up there. So, oh, well, tonight, kiddies, we've got a wonderful show, Slugfest 7. We are going to be pitting King Diamond against King Diamond. Abigail versus Abigail 2. And I just saw, we've been going through Slugfest, and I love both of these albums. I mean,
Oh
Abigail
yeah.
is a seminal album, and I love Abigail too. I think they're both strong albums. Excuse me. And the great thing with Slugfest is when you start looking track by track, uh, then everything changes. Like I go back to our very first Slugfest. We did Master of Puppets versus Rust in Peace, and I love the album Rust in Peace more than
Yeah.
Master of Puppets. But looking at it track by track, I'm like, Master of Puppets is a pretty awesome album, and it
It
ended up
is.
winning.
Yeah.
So you never know how this thing is going to play out. But for those of you who are new to the show, Slugfest is like a boxing match. We're going to be comparing track one against track one. Talk about that and see who wins, and
Yeah.
keep track. Now, Abigail 2 is longer, more songs than Abigail, so we've had to cut a few. Just a couple exceptions, so it's no big deal. I think we've got 9 rounds here we're going to be doing, so
Yeah.
we're going to have a winner one way or another. And round 1 is going to be Funeral Arrival versus Spare This Life and The Storm. So round 1.
Before we start, can I quickly get on my King Diamond soapbox?
Yes, please.
Just a quick sentence. Don't want to delay things, but
Oh no, you're fine.
yeah, I always shake my head when I read King Diamond reviews. I think, in my opinion, and I am pretty strong on this opinion, every record with King Diamond singing belongs in a metal fan's collection. I mean, it's all good. I mean, I don't. I get how you want to compare one King Diamond album to another. I mean, that is understandable. But when I see people going, "Oh, we're going to give this album a 5 out of 10," I'm like, what? No, every King album, everything is quality in my opinion with King
Yeah.
Diamond. Merciful Fate, it's all
Merciful
good.
Fate's great. Some albums
Yeah.
are stronger than the others,
Some are stronger than others,
right?
right? But it's all good.
But it's all good. I
Yeah.
love King Diamond and Merciful Fate
Yep.
too. I
Yep.
mean, 9. What a
Oh,
phenomenal
fantastic.
album! Oh my
Yeah.
God, it's just a ripper from beginning to end. And
Yep.
I love In the Shadows, The Uninvited Guest. Fate's
Oh.
got a great sound. And Chop and I have seen King Diamond. We saw him on the Voodoo tour, the Puppet Master tour.
And we saw Merciful Fate.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know if it was a new
That was at
album.
the
Into the
Agora
Unknown.
Ballroom.
Into the
MC
Unknown.
Unknown tour. Yeah. That was
Yeah.
crazy
They opened
show.
up with
People,
Egypt. That was crazy.
they were swinging off the chandeliers and everything.
Yeah, I was worried about someone falling down or getting killed in that one.
So I saw Merciful Fate in Denver, and there's this fog on the stage, and then we see this orange thing like moving around the fog, and everybody in the audience is going, "It's a monster! They got a monster on the stage! Oh my God!" And people are going crazy. And then you hear the organ music, and it's some big fat kid in a Bronco shirt that had crawled up on stage. Well, it's not a monster.
That's great. That's great. Well, what I love about Diamond, about King, he's just so theatrical.
Yeah, he's
there's a
great.
theatrical presence, and I love the gates and the cemetery feel, and like bringing out the coffin with Abigail in it,
Bringing out grandma.
Yeah, grandma for them, for welcome home,
Yeah.
or dressing up like Santa comes up with no presents for Christmas. There's just so much tongue-in-cheek humor. I don't know how anyone could just not just have a fantastic time in a King Diamond show,
I've tried to meet him numerous times. I mean, when I have full credentials, and he's a ninja, because I've really made an effort to go back there. And the tour manager, everybody's always cool to me. They say, "Okay, wait here. King will be out." No, he somehow gets out where there's no other exits, and I'm looking at everybody walking by, make sure he's not sneaking by. Yeah, I think 4 times I've really put in an effort to meet him, and I have not been successful.
Well, there
Oh.
might be some black magic in that old black package that he's running.
Yeah. Well, Mark, I know through Nikki Law at Breaking the Law PR, King is slated to be on our show whenever he releases his new album.
Oh, cool.
When that's going to happen, I can let you know if you'd like to join us, just to say hi to
Yeah, just
King.
for a minute. Yeah, just a huge fan.
Yeah, because our friend Justin Biggs from Sorcerer also wants to come on to say hi for that because he's a huge fan. So I'm like, hey, if I can help bring everyone together, that would be awesome. Yeah, I'm blown away that he might only give us like a half an hour. I go, that's
Yeah.
fine. I'm
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm great because it's King fucking Diamond, man. I get it.
Right.
That's So yeah. Okay. So there's going to be some great sound effects, ding dings, and it's going to be wonderful when this is all done. So round one, funeral arrival versus Spare This Life and the Storm. Chop Top, how about you take it?
Oh, sure. I'll say with Funeral Arrival, I think it's so creepy. The atmosphere, it's a perfect intro to a horror concept album. I remember when I first got this in 87, that intro scared the shit out of me right out the get-go. I'm like, what the hell is that? That evil voice and talking about Abigail Lefane, and it's all distorted and with that creepy music underneath. So yeah, perfect intro for that. I love the galloping riff in Arrival and the solos, especially Michael Denner in there, are smoking. They're very tasty, I'd say. I'll say this up front. The first Abigail album, I think the production is much better for me. Everything's brighter. Everything's perfectly mixed for me, my taste. I'm not a fan of the production on Abigail 2. I think it's kind of muddied. I think it's too much on the low end. And some of King's vocals are they're mixed lower in the mix, along with some of the guitar solos. So I did notice that on listening to me, because it's been a while since I've listened to these myself. So with that said, then there's Spare This Life in the Storm. Again, a keyboard intro, it's atmospheric. I don't think it's as creepy as Funeral, though. It's effective for me. I love, the intro, the riff to the Storm. I think it's just classic. Just get you in that groove right there. It's head banging right away. There's a time change at the solo is really cool. And yeah, I think it's just one hell of a banger. But when I look at it overall, and in my taste and what I prefer, I'm going to go with Funeral and Arrival.
All right. Okay, Mark, your thoughts on track round one?
Okay, both are great songs. What I liked and didn't like, I thought Funeral reminds me a lot of Merciful Fate. I mean, which would make sense given the personnel, and there's nothing wrong with that. I did like around the 504 in the song, there's some cool stops, which are musically a little different than you would expect. So I love that. And they executed it really, really well. I like how they really hold off on the big triplet right till the very end, which is really cool. They do it right before the ending. Vocal lines, classic King Diamond. So excellent song. Spare This Life and the Storm. I like the string melodies. The strings aren't specifically just atmosphere on this. There's an actual melody with some creepy voices. I like the percussion in the beginning that sounded like a big tomb slamming. So I thought that was cool. What I really liked, and the song that's what pushes this one into the winner for me. The guitar riff is insane in this song. I mean, it is just absolutely a killer guitar riff. Um, there's I don't know if it's a chorus or a vocal bridge. There's a really nice triplet one in the middle that caught my ear. Um, So yeah, they're really, really close, but I gotta do the I gotta give the winner to Spare This Life in the Storm, just solely on the guitar riff.
All right, nice. Oh, it comes down to me. Um, yeah, both tracks, both Funeral definitely creates that creepy atmosphere, the with the distorted voices, kind of setting up the story. And Arrival has got this, this great kind of slugging, uh, chugging along beat, and then before the real riff comes in, and you get that faster galloping thing. Spare This Life kind of mirrors that a little bit with, setting up the story. Here's what's happening now. Here's sets the context. But the Storm for me has a cleaner, heavy riff, and I love that kind of syncopated stuff that Matt Thompson does with the drums and the off tempo kinds of things where
Yeah.
he plays. I'm like, ooh, that's really nice. Now, trying to compare Matt Thompson and Mickey D, I'm not trying to do that at all. They are both
Yeah.
different animals, different drummer. They're both phenomenal drummers.
Yes,
Um,
definitely.
yeah, Mickey D, I think, is one of the best power drummers in the business. I think it's a waste of talent that he's playing with the Scorpions. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. It's like he's like a Maserati in a Yugo race. It's just too much power for that band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, that's why he made Motorhead so great, for decades, just plowing through that, you know. And Matt Thompson has so much versatility in what he brings to the game. He can play everything that D does, but he also has the more, I think, interesting kind of rhythms that he plays and brings more to that. So, but it's the Storm for me has those interesting stops, interesting kind of time changes. And as a drummer, I'm like, ooh, I love kind of hearing that stuff. So, I'm gonna go with Spare This Life and the Storm. So, round one goes to Abigail 2. Ooh. Um, Round two is A Mansion in Darkness versus Mansion in Sorrow. Love how these kind of songs are kind of kind of paralleling one another. So, round two, Chop Top, take it away.
All right. I'm gonna go first to Mansion in Darkness. I love the time change during the chorus and with the riffs. Love the main melody, guitar work in there, and the solos are, of course, absolutely killer. One thing I'll say is time changes galore in these albums, right? It's just a feast for anybody who really looks in it. Almost progressive in nature, a lot of it. And I think that's a lot, possibly all of King's discography has that. I'm not going to be naive and think that it's not, but man, I listen to these again. I'm just like, oh, there's a change. I'm like, holy cats. And they do it so cleanly. And so I just, it blows my mind. So that said, I love them mentioning Sorrow. I do love that melody as well. I love that riff over the chorus. Uh, I think, especially during the solo in that song, there's some really cool time changes as well with that. This was a little difficult, these two tracks for me. Um, I just think because maybe I'm being biased. It's probably not even fair at all for me to be on because
Get the
I
fuck
think,
off.
man, because Abigail is it's just a classic, and it's up there with the obviously and well deserved best metal albums in the world. So I'm going with Mansion in Darkness on this one as well.
Okay. All right. Okay, Mark.
Mansion in Darkness, a nice, cool, fast song. Love the riff. One of the first things that caught my ear is the King Diamond's vocals. He sort of layers them up to end each phrase, which was really cool. I always really like that. That's something you often hear in string sections and symphonic pieces. That was really cool. He did that vocally. There's a little bit of guitar work on the chorus. They're letting a few notes ring out, so I really appreciate that. There's a brilliant harmony guitar section in the song. It was just excellent. I mean, it's just a great song overall. Absolutely
Mhm.
incredible song. Um, Mansion and Sorrow. Those are some wacky guitar rhythms. I was thought in my head immediately. I'm kind of visualize how I would play them, and it would be tough getting them that clean. I mean, it would be a big workout. So big plus on the unusual guitar rhythms. I liked at the end of the solo some really cool fast riffs. So I think it came down to for me, despite the unique rhythms in Mansion of Sorrow, I just think A Mansion of Darkness is just the better track.
All right. Um, yeah, there's very little I can add to this other than I like both tracks as well, and they are different. Overall, Choppa, it was interesting what you said about the albums mixed differently. I don't hear the heavy low end in Abigail too. Maybe your copy or the speakers that we're
Well,
both listening are different.
I listened to these both again off YouTube, so they had the full albums, and I went
Yeah,
through
oh
it.
God,
So I
no.
cheated a little bit. You know
That's
what I'm
the thing.
saying?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's a difference. Abigail it feels a little more raw in its
Oh,
production
definitely.
value than Abigail 2 is a lot cleaner, a lot more, I think, limited in its range. Nothing that's not a strike against it. It's just two
Mhm.
very different styles, recorded two very different eras,
Decades
production
apart.
values.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so there's that as well. So there's something I really like about the sound of Abigail, and Mansion in Darkness versus Mansion in Sorrow. Mansion in Sorrow is kind of catchy, but Mansion in Darkness, I think it's more of a gothic heavy song, and when it's riffs, it kind of pulls me into the song or the album more thoroughly than Mansion in Sorrow does. Although I like how they parallel kind of one
that's a
another.
good point. Yeah. Good
Yeah.
point.
But I'm with both of you. For me, the better track, the stronger track because of those things. Um, and sometimes it comes down to minutia on some of these tracks. It's like, trying to be objective here. But Mansion in Darkness wins it for me as well. So yeah, excellent. So round two goes to Abigail. So on the ones, we got a slugfest.
Yes, we do.
Yes. Now, round three is the Family Ghost versus Miriam. So round three, Chop Top, take it away.
Okay, go with Family Ghost first. This was the first single, I believe, off that album. And man, that intro riff drew me right. It's just so killer. Solos are all killer. The time changes are all over in that song. Mickey D is playing the shit out of his set on that track. I mean, he plays it all through the album, but this really shines, in my opinion, with Mickey. Miriam, on the other hand, I love the pre-chorus riff, but it's one of my less favorite tracks on Abigail too. For some reason, I don't know, it just never really stuck with me or anything. So obviously, my choice is going to go with Family Ghost.
All right. Okay, Mark.
Yeah, I have a lot of agreement in some of the comments. Family Ghost is definitely a Mickey D clinic. I mean, just his parts are phenomenal, and there's some subtleties, like a few things he does on the hi hat that are just incredible. I mean, any metal drummer learning or anybody wanting a good workout will do themselves a favor by figuring out Family Ghost. It's a great drum part.
Yeah.
Vocal line is cool. It's everything you would expect from King Diamond. There's a slowdown for the solo, which was brilliant. It just adds a whole different feel to it. As alluded earlier, as not alluded, it's the wrong word, as just said earlier, there's a lot of time changes in King Diamond, and they do wonders with them. So there's great time change. Um, I like the laughter from King Diamond in it. You
Oh,
don't
yeah.
hear that stuff in metal enough. I think,
No.
old Priest, Rob would scream a lot. And I think back then that was probably really cool. But now everybody does it. But Rob should get all the credit for it still. Thank you, Rob. So it's
Mhm.
cool when you hear vocals do other things, like ZZ Top, half the songs have that ha 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 or mercy or something. And I always
Yeah.
like that. So it's cool
Taken
with the
right from the
laughter
blues.
from King
Yeah.
Diamond. I really
Uh-huh.
like that.
Mhm.
They do some cool, like a 2-bar riff where they do the accent on the second bar, 3 and 4. And we do that in a few Jag Panzer songs. I've always loved that. And that's in Family Ghost a few times. So yeah, love it. Um, Miriam has, to me, sounds like a little more of a basic metal, straight ahead metal songs, but man, I love that riff. The rhythm guitar playing it sounds a little bit different. I would chalk it up to Mike Weed on guitar, but I don't know for sure. Um, there's a little more straight ahead vocal line for the chorus, which I like. I mean, I like when it's mixed up a little bit. Um, something they do in there, and another thing I really like is, typical eighth notes are usually just 8 notes or 4 notes repeated. Um, they have a section where they're doing a group of three, a group of three, and a group of two. So it sort of fools your ear into thinking a lot of people hear the group of three and think it's a triplet, but it is most certainly not in this case. It's a 3-3-2 to put it in straight 4/4, but that was like absolutely brilliant. That was very cool. And so, yeah, this was a tough call. I'm actually going with Miriam solely because it sounds a little bit different from typical King Diamond. Both are
Okay.
great songs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Family Ghost has that classic, the horror sounds and you hear the laughing and all those things that kind of make the joy of King Diamond what it is. It's when I would tell people who King Diamond was or what it was experience was like, it's like going to a horror movie for your ears. He tells a story and it's like listening to something, a story being played out, and you get all the sounds and he uses his voice very creatively. Um,
Yeah.
what I love about Miriam is when they get into like the pre-chorus and the chorus, the drums, that syncopated thing that Matt Thompson does. It's just really nice. It's because it changes like every four, every measure has this new kind of drum part to it. It is cleaner sounding, and so both of these were like, okay, do I go with Mickey D, who's just putting on a clinic here, Matt Thompson, who's like doing his own thing. He's like, it's a Matt Thompson clinic with let's make the song sound really interesting by putting in these phrasings that kind of give more life to the rather straightforward guitar riffs. And so again, it's hard, minutia for me, but I'm going to go with Family Ghost on this one as well. And I don't think either way, you're not going to pick a bad song either way,
No, no.
Yeah, for sure.
It might be
So
one of my less favorite tracks, but it's still a good song.
Family Ghost or Miriam?
Miriam. Yeah.
Miriam, yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. So after 3 rounds, we've got Abigail has taken a little lead here, and up 2-1. All right. So round 4 is the 7th day of July versus Little One. So round 4, take it away, Chop.
All right. I'm gonna dive right into it. 7th day of July. Love the acoustic intro, clean guitar intro. Mid-song break is really cool before the first solo. Um, Kind of not a fan of the chorus too much, but I mean musically, constructed wise, it's just phenomenal. I love that song. Little One for me, it's kind of forgettable for me. I kind of was bored with it, other than the solos all over the place in it. So it really kept it going, kept it alive for that track. So this was easy for me. This is 7th day of July.
All right. Mark.
7th Day of July is always the track I play for people, and I can never understand this, but I always get people, not always, I occasionally get somebody that says, oh, I love Merciful Fate and can't get into King Diamond. So this is the track I play because everything I loved about Merciful Fate, which is a lot of things, is you can hear in 7th Day of July. I mean,
Oh
that
yeah.
is a classic King Diamond vocal line. Yeah, it's a great song. There's a cool, really drastic feel change at around 3:30, which is just great. That's difficult to pull off to make it sound natural, and they do it. It's incredible. There's also there's a guitar melody during the solo, which it doesn't sound like Randy Rhoads licks, but it's similar to how Randy Rhoads would build a theme with his solos. There's a theme in the middle of solo that, and it's brilliant, just an absolutely great song. The ending's cool, where I think they're just down tuning for a bar with hit a note, just hit the whammy bar. Great ending. Um, Little One, man, I love that guitar riff. It really resonates with me as a guitar player. I like the kids' voices over the stops. Again, really very creepy sounding. Guitar solo was great. The chorus is a little more straightforward than you expect from King Diamond. Um, During the guitar solo, also, there's a part where they really tone down the rhythm guitar behind the solo from what they usually do. So my verdict, God, both great songs. And again, I'm going to give the nod to Little One because it is a bit different from standard King Diamond.
Hmm. Yeah, this one on face value, 7th Day of July is one of my favorite King Diamond tracks of all. There are a few on this album that are just like, come on, you can't get much better than that. But I also like Little One. you know, and I'm like, oh man, yeah, that's what I love about this format is pitting two great albums against one another. Like, man, I love both of these albums. What is it that's going to take me to make the push? And sometimes it's just a gut reaction or an emotional reaction to the song, and something that kind of grabs me in a way that's different than the other. And that's the case in this song, Seventh Day of July. I mean, there, you know, you got some phenomenal musicianship on both
Oh,
tracks. Uh, you know, and as you listen for guitar parts, Mark, I listen to drum parts as well, and I also play guitar, and I'm not, you know, fiddle around with it, but uh, you know, so I'm paying attention to those kinds of things and just how the music pulls me, and for me, I like the straightforward nature of Little One, and I like that these songs are 4 tracks in, we're progressing the story, but there's something about Seventh Day of July that just kind of still hooks me and still grabs me like it like it did the very first time I heard this album. So I'm gonna go with Seventh Day of July.
cool.
All right. Well, we are so Abigail's taking a little lead here. What we have round 5 coming up. Round 5 is Omens versus Slippery Stairs. So round 5, take it away, Chop.
All right. Start with Omens. This is always forever a favorite of mine. Love the main riff. That chorus is great. The keys before the solo is a nice touch also in the song. Just a classic banger. Slippery Stairs. I love that intro riff. The melody during the verses, especially on guitar, especially the use of the single notes over as King's, you know, singing during those parts and stuff in the verses. Um, Time change after the solo is, I think, was very interesting. Yeah, the solo in the middle, I should say, of the song. I thought that time change was really interesting and cool. This is a little more difficult because I think there's a little bit more creativity with Slippery Stairs, especially in the use of the guitar and some of the single note stuff over the verses while King's singing and that riff itself. Plus, like I said, time change, the solo in the middle is interesting. But man,
It's hard,
I'm
right?
gonna. It's hard. This
I
is
know.
hard.
I
This
know.
I didn't think when I wrote this. I didn't think it was going to be that. Now I'm looking at them side by side. I'm like, holy cow. Um, I'm going to give a little love to Abigail too. I'm going to say Slippery Stairs on this one.
All right. Very nice. Okay, Mark.
Omens, great riff to start the song. There's a nice small guitar line to break up the verses, which is great. There's a sort of a modified gallop riff in the song, which is a little trickier to play clean, and they do a wonderful job in it. It sounds great. During the solo, it really sounded like a conscious one guitar player than the other trading off licks. I imagine they're probably doing that in several of the songs, but this one was really obvious, like a kind of like a classic Priest style.
Hmm.
The organ section in the middle where the band's hitting the accents, very cool. Also, harmony guitars, awesome. So just great King Diamond song. Slippery Stairs, that beginning riff. I mean, I had to force myself not to grab the guitar. I mean, that was a
Right?
spectacular riff. I mean, I love that riff.
Yeah.
I mean, I I convinced myself I needed to hear the song 3 times to properly write notes, just because I wanted to hear that riff more and more. Um, they do a double stop in the leads, and I love double stops. I like to do them on the very, very, very rare time I play a lead, but you hardly ever hear them in metal much anymore. But they
Mhm.
do one in this lead, so I'm like, yeah, double stop. Um, there's some unusual chords behind King's vocals during the verses, which I
Yeah.
really, really liked. Lots of melody in the lead guitar, lots of little themes there. Um, Musically, they're going into some whole notes on the ending, so I like that. So this was actually a fairly easy one for me. Slippery Stairs all the way.
Nice.
All right.
Nice. Yeah, this album again, I love both of these albums, and if I if I were just to say which one is better side by side as a whole album, I couldn't do it. Uh, comparing them track at a time and as the tracks line up, it makes it sometimes a little bit different or easier. But both of you kind of hit on everything that I liked about these songs too. I love Omens. You know, that it's just such a heavy, big song, and you hear Diamond's full range here. You know, he just
Yeah.
hits these notes. It's like, oh, come on, man. And the solos are just phenomenal. And
Yeah.
I love what you said, Mark, about the trading solos back and forth, because then you also get the different. You hear the styles of each guitarist separately. You know, you hear how they bring something to the mix. Like listening to Iron Maiden, like Dave Murray and trading off solos, with Adrian Smith. You
Yeah.
you hear
Yeah.
differences in their nuances and how they play, and I love that. And same thing with Slippery Stairs. You know, it's that all those complicated music. I think as a whole, Abigail 2 has a lot more complexity in some regards, but you hear that in Abigail as well. There's all kinds of time changes.
Yeah.
So it's the hallmark of King Diamond. He just brings it every album. Um, Slippery Stairs is already one. I'm going to go with Omens just because of those things, but it's irrelevant. Slippery Stairs has won this round, which is I'm happy to give some love to Abigail 2. So yeah, Abigail 2 is coming back 3-2. Very nice. Excellent, excellent. Round 6 is the Possession versus the Crypt. So round 6, take it away, Chop.
All right, round 6, Possession. Again, love the main riff. I mean, man, you look at history of awesome riffs, not only Priest and Maiden. You got to throw King Diamond Band in it. It's incredible riffs, and he always surrounds himself with brilliant musicians. But nonetheless, there's a. I love the break with the clean guitar is really cool. Uh, the breaks before the solos I thought really nice. And here you really hear Mickey D using the ride cymbal so crisp and so precise, along with his powerful drumming through. And I thought that's really the only song I could recall on there that he's really working out that ride cymbal
Oh, there's one
awesomely.
more.
So,
We'll get to it later.
okay.
Yes.
But I really, I mean, it was really, you could really hear that in the production, the mix. It was really bright in there. I was like, oh, that's sweet how Mickey was doing that. The Crypt, um, cool, it had a cool, clean guitar intro. The swirling riff during the verses is pretty sweet because it's almost like somebody's like going down to a crypt, and that riff goes right along with that is the title of the song. It's almost like somebody, swirling into insanity. But I think there's just for me, I love the riff in the crypt because I think it fits the title well. But man, Possession, just everything going on in there and the things that I talked about. So Possession is the winner for me here.
All right. Okay, Mark.
Possession. First thing that hit me on this song is it's brilliant because the vocal line almost sounds like a tribute to King Diamond done by King Diamond because if you listen to his actual melody lines, they don't sound like Merciful Fate in this song, but starting with the high note and working down vocally is a Merciful Fate trademark. So yeah, it almost becomes like a tribute to himself, which was brilliant. Um, there's a little more chunk in the riff on the guitar than you hear in most of the songs on Abigail. So that caught my ear immediately, and I thought that was brilliant. Another clinic from Mickey D. I mean, that guy's is just a beast. Um, there's a few times in the song where the guitarists are using really high notes and there's some effect on it, and it just adds a lot of atmosphere, which is a really, really unique way to get your guitar heard in there. So I really, really like that. The Crypt, that's a really different vocal line in the beginning. That was, yeah, I don't love it, but I mean I like it. It's okay. I like the fact that it's very different. I like the riff. There's a riff in the song where the drums are just pounding the accent, which is great, and that alludes to the title, The Crypt. I thought that was good. There's some really chaotic riffing in there, which is really cool. I like the ending where they're building up the echo. For me, the winner, Possession is just so good that I just have to give it to Possession.
Yeah, yeah. Right. These are both songs that have very, very strong atmospheric components. I agree, Chop, with that kind of swirling and that kind of chaotic nature that you mentioned, Mark, at the end.
Yeah, with that riff. Yeah.
Yeah, it just kind of builds this crescendo. Um, Again, that's the one thing I always love about Diamond is no matter he's just creating a sense of atmosphere. like on the Voodoo album, which is I love. You
Oh,
get the
talking
feeling
about
of you're in the Louisiana. You hear the crickets and you hear everything. There's a sense of place, and both of these albums kind of have that. I think even more so in Abigail too at times, where you the create the sense of place as the story progresses. The Possession is just it's just like almost it's just phenomenal. There are there's so much going on in this
right.
song. You could say that with all of them, but I agree with both of you. The Possession leads out for me. It just edges the crypt because of it. Just at every level, there's just something going on that just very strong, 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 stronger, and interesting. But both tracks pull me in. But for me, I'm going to lean toward the Possession as well. So, all right,
Okay.
Possession. Well, here's when we starting kind of pulling out some tracks to make things fit. Round 7 is going to be Abigail. We're going to take 2 songs from Abigail 2, Abigail versus Broken Glass and More Than Pain, because those kind of fit sandwiched very nicely into one longer story. So round 7, Chop Top, Abigail versus Broken Glass and More Than Pain.
Okay. Well, Abigail, I just love the intro, that classically inspired riff. It's just classic. You think of Diamond, you almost think of that riff immediately from his solo career. It just draws you right in. And it's almost got like I love the groove riff. Da-na-na, da-na-na-na. I just love that groove feel with it, and gets the head bob and hits everything, hits all the sweet spots for me. Broken Glass and More Than Pain, again, another classical inspired riff. I really like that in there. The solo is very tasty. Uh, I find the song More Than Pain is just kind of forgettable for me. It's almost throwaway. I think based on that, because I do like Broken Glass and that classical riff, and Abigail is just a classic, but I got to go with Abigail, man. I've always loved that track. It's always one of my favorite King Diamond songs, and that groove just pulls me in every time. So, yeah, Abigail.
All right. Okay, Chop. All right, Mark. Round 7 for you.
Okay, Abigail, beginning riff is awesome. I mean, caught my ear the first time I heard it. It's just a great riff. The vocal line's iconic. I think you could go up to King Diamond fans at any show and say, "Hey, sing a King Diamond vocal line," and a lot of them would do the Abigail line. It's
Yeah.
just iconic.
Oh,
Um,
Abigail. Yes. I am
Abigail, da
alive
da 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 da
inside your
da.
life. Yeah.
The sinister laughing against these stopping spaces in the song is brilliant. I mean, it sounds really creepy. I continue with a shout out to Mickey D. I mean, he's just so good. Organ section in there's great, adds lots of atmosphere. Just a brilliant song. Broken Glass is yeah, again, a little different sounding. It's the vocal line is rhythmically a little simpler than King Diamond usually does, but works really well. It's a brilliant melody line. Vocal line's great. Um, the weird note at the end of the song, it's got tons of overtones. I think it's low piano notes, but it's got so many overtones, it's almost like a gong. It's very cool. More Than Pain is, I like everything King Diamond does. This is one of my least favorite songs, though. um yeah, it's got a few different things in there. The dramatic vocal reading is great, and some of the riffs are cool. I like the weird voices at the end. My verdict, Abigail is such a great song and so iconic. It's an easy call for me with Abigail.
Yeah. It's hard to argue against that at all. I really love Broken Glass and More Than Pain. And then here's I think one of the times where you really hear the laughter on this album, Abigail 2, really comes through, especially on Broken Glass. you know, and just the song is so sinister, you know, and they both have a lot of talking elements, which I really like.
Mhm.
Abigail, where he's like, kind of speaking the lyrics, and then you hear that too in Broken Glass, the talking element. Um, and you hear Matt Thompson doing a lot of that nice finesse and cymbal work, a lot of the riding on the bell, ding 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 ding, ding, and all those kinds of the syncopated with the china and stuff like that. 'Cause I love those songs together. I cannot argue with the iconic nature of Abigail, though. And Chop, you can remember last time we saw Diamond at the House of Blues, I had made a poster, and and on one side I wrote "Welcome home, King," on the other side was "Abigail, you bitch." So, and he's coming out and doing his final applause. So I'm holding up the big like side that says "Abigail, you bitch," and he looked up and he applauded to it, like he pointed to the sign and applauded. I'm like, oh, King Diamond.
He's like, like that was so great. It's hysterical. Very memorable moment.
From my black heart to yours, Montag.
Cleveland.
Thank you, Cleveland. Yeah, so but Abigail is just such a great song. And as much as I really love the humor, the dark, black, wicked humor in Broken Glass and More Than Pain, because I love the part before it gets into the kind of the staccato chorus up into that part. I love that part.
Oh
But
yeah.
then it kind of falls into a rhythm that is less, I think, less successful. So I'm gonna go with Abigail on this one as well, because I mean, come on, it's Abigail. All right. Round 8, we have Black Horseman versus the Wheelchair. All right, so round 8. Chop Top, take it away.
All right. Black Horseman. What's to say about this song? Epic, melodic. Love the intro. I think it's actually probably one of King's most beautiful songs, musically and everything. He's on top of his game. His vocals in there just tremendous. I like this. I noticed it. I didn't notice it. Listened to the album for decades. How'd I skip this? But that Spanish kind of solo over the intro guitar part, that was really nice touch too. But I think it's just an epic, melodic, beautiful song. Now the Wheelchair, again, man, I love the riff in this one. It's like how it comes out, kicking out, sort of like the Storm does, right? So it reminds me a lot in that vein. But man, I think there's a ripping solo. I love the outro on it. Man, but Black Horseman, man. I mean, what a way to finish a freaking classic album. It hits all the spots for me. It has everything in that song. So it's Black Horseman all the way.
All right. Okay, Mark.
Black Horseman, loved the clean intro, and the sort of flamenco style lead in the
Right.
beginning was great. Um, love how the vocal lines are starting with more held guitar chords in the background. I thought that was very cool and different. Um, the chorus, if that's what you want to call it, there's always so much going on in these songs, so I don't know what King Diamond would actually call the chorus. It's brilliant. It's really, really cool. Guitar solo is very melodic, a nice theme in there, so I really like that. So great song. The Wheelchair has man, a lot of chunky riffs and a lot of really leaning down on the down picking on the guitar, which I'm personally a really big fan of. Um, there's a few vocal parts that have sort of a background vocal tucked behind them that isn't just a harmony. It's sort of held vocal notes, which works really well for me. Um, theme guitar in the beginning, which is good. I love melodic themes. So for me, because I love chunky riffs so much, I'm going to go with the Wheelchair.
All right. Yeah, I love both of these songs. I The Wheelchair was actually the first song I heard from this album, because it was back in the days where apparently there are things where you could do, you can find music out there illegally and download it. I don't know. I just
Yeah,
heard this
somebody shared
song.
that with me. Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but I had heard this song first, and I just was so creeped out by the beginning, that swirling strings. It was like, oh, it just ran through me like nails on a chalkboard. I'm like, oh my God, this is fucking scary. It's like the beginning of House of God, with that kind of weird, like, oh, you know.
Yeah.
So thank you, King, for making me feel creeped out. Black Horseman, here's Chop. Here's the other song where you can really hear Mickey D riding that bell. He just
Okay.
playing that
Why did I
ding,
never notice that? I
ding,
don't know
ding,
why, but yeah.
ding, 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 ding. He's kind of playing that rhythm that you're going to
Okay.
hear throughout the song, but he anticipates that on the ride, on the bell of the ride early on.
All right.
Yeah, both songs are really great. I love that heaviness of the Wheelchair. It is just heavy, straightforward, like um I just love it. You know, makes me wish I had a bigger amplifier and you know, I could play something just play loud. But Black Horseman, I do love the beginning, how melodic it is, how beautiful this acoustic extended kind of beginning solo, and then you hear that theme kind of riding out as the song doesn't, you know, just kind of rides and echoes when you have the solos at the end are just blistering back and forth.
Oh,
And Mickey D's really playing that bell cymbal like crazy, man. It's just he's just like doing his power double bass. You know, Black Horseman for me is just as much as I love the wheelchair, I have to go with Black Horseman because there's just so much music going on. It's so melodic and beautiful,
beautiful.
and just it's just a strong uh, song. You know, just really kills it. Um, um, now round 9, we're actually doing the song Shrine, which I think came out with when Abigail came out was re-released. Shrine was a B-side or
There's a
something
Dark
like that.
Side EP. Yeah, that's what it was
Yeah,
released on.
and
Dark
it was
Yeah.
Side.
put back on. So I thought, well, let's finish up with Shrine versus Spirits. Um, and so round 9, let's Chop Top Shrine versus Spirits.
All right. So in Shrine, my God, that riff, the groove, so heavy. The time changes within it. I just freaking always love this song. I'm like, I never, it's like, too bad, you know, it's probably leftover material from the Abigail sessions, but too bad that wasn't included on the original pressing or album of that. I don't know if it is on the remasters or not. And then Spirits, I love that chorus and the guitar melody over it. This was a more difficult one than I thought. Man, I'm such a fan of a heavy riff and plus with groove it comes with it. That Shrine comes through for me as the ultimate winner on that one.
All right, Mark.
Um, Shrine, you know, mid-tempo riff. The song actually reminds me of something that would have been on Melissa. So it definitely has a Merciful Fate sound to me. There's some a lower pitch vocals in it that show up from King Diamond that are brilliant. It's just a little bit of a change up there. There's also a part in the song that's just guitars, and it sounds almost like a symphonic arrangement. Absolutely, just brilliant. Love that. Spirits, I like the intro sounds. It sounds like it's out of a horror film. Now, metal bands do that sort of thing all the time, but they usually sound like they're trying to imitate something out of a horror film. This sounds like it was straight out of a horror film. It was brilliantly done.
Right.
The intro singing by King Diamond, he's a little bit softer than usual. It sounds great. Um, there's a different guitar line that comes in on the verses, which is not what I expected. Which I love when things catch my ear by surprise. Um, Great layered vocals all through the song. A little different from what King Diamond usually does. So I'm gonna go with Spirits in this.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah, Shrine. It sounds like something that would fit also very well on Fatal Portrait. You know, it's got an older riffing. It's got that classic sound, and it's a really creepy, good song.
Yeah.
Not as creepy as the phone call from grandmother.
Oh,
You know,
most
but
terrifying
it's
phone call you
yeah, it's just like, oh fuck, man, come on, man. I gotta go to bed tonight. Um, but yeah, but Spirits, I really love this track. This is one of my favorite tracks of the whole album, and it is because of that chorus. It's just so you got those arpeggios going with these really lovely harmonies, and and then you go from that to this like when it hits to the other side, you know, it's really down rip down hit, you know, hitting on those notes.
Oh
It
yeah.
changes back into a really heavy riff, but there's a lot going on this in this song, and I think even though there's a couple more tracks that we could have talked about, you know, Mommy and a couple other ones. Spirits, I think, is the strongest, one of the strongest tracks on the song. So I'm going to go. My vote is for Spirits on this one as well because I just, you know, it's a great song. So,
Absolutely.
for those of you, we got a winner. Clang clang. Abigail is the clear winner tonight, 6-3 in tonight's Slugfest. I think if maybe if it wasn't for, I mean, it's hard to pick. I mean, Slugfest makes it sound like one album is necessarily better than the other. It's not because I love both of these albums and they're very different
Oh
albums.
yeah.
you know, like every album that Diamond does is so good, like you had said, Mark. And I really love Abigail too. I really do. And you know, track to track, you know, it was a tough match because some of these was just like it came down to like just a hair there or a hair there to go into it. But yeah, Abigail wins tonight's Slugfest. Oof,
Well, I kind of felt like maybe I was unfairly biased, coming in because
you
I'm
son of a
such a
bitch.
fan of Abigail, the first one, and everything else, and just everything about it. That even though I loved Revenge as well, it's just, man, I felt like I was kind of biased. Like I already had my decision made up before I took notes, but as I started re-listening to these tracks again, I'm like, wow, the Revenge is actually really freaking brilliant in itself too.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was a great exercise in going back and listening to both these albums again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is really good.
glad you mentioned Matt Thompson several times. I mean, great drummer. I mean, just
Yeah,
Hmm.
outstanding. He doesn't get enough credit. I mean,
no,
he's fantastic.
He really is. I mean, I know Diamond's kind of had problems with drummers, you know, keeping drummers along. They had someone come in after Mickey D, then they had Snowy Shaw, then there was someone else, and then you know, Matt Thompson. I think he just fits the bill beautifully, and I love
Yeah.
Matt's other music. Like I love Shaolin Death Squad. Um, I Intelligent Design is one of my favorite albums of all time. It's just like so good, and I'm not sure if you're aware of Shaolin Death Squad, Mark, at all.
I've heard the name, but have not listened to him.
Go on YouTube like Chop Top does. Go out and check out Shaolin Death Squad,
Okay.
Intelligent Design. The
yeah,
first track, if the first track doesn't hook you, then the rest of the album probably won't. But the first track is called A Terrible Way to Use a Sword. Uh, Shaolin Death Squad is just it's progressive, it's metal. You're gonna see everything's there, and it's really interesting. And you're gonna hear Matt's drumming at the forefront. All of his styles are coming together, and unfortunately, they don't really leave Texas. You know, that's kind of they don't do real much touring, but um, you know, yeah, that's a really exciting, very interesting band. So we're hoping to have Matt back on sometime to talk
oh yeah,
about that and with his many projects. But yeah, and he's a super nice guy. You know, we've interviewed
hmm
him. Just a really nice guy. And he said when Diamond comes to Cleveland to let him know. I'm like, I'm hoping that means we get to go back and like say hi. So we'll see about that.
Yeah, that would be
So,
great.
yeah,
and if we're going in, Mark, if you want to fly out to Cleveland, I think
yeah.
we can probably try to get you in it too. So, you know,
Yeah, if that's
if
a
you're hanging out with
possibility,
us,
that I would fly out to Cleveland for that.
if you're hanging out with the heavy metal horror guys, Mark, we know
So
how to
what
get you
else can you
places.
ask for, Mark? Come on. Yeah, we
Yeah.
left it.
um, Mark, thank you again for
Thank
joining
you.
with us, and
Oh, this
I
was
hope.
fun.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
I'm glad you had a
great
good
time.
time. We love this format. It's so much fun to compare these albums.
Yeah.
Um, and at any time, like if you want to do another Slugfest with us, like tell us like two albums that you want us to do, we'll be
Absolutely,
happy. We'll
man.
be happy to do it. We'd love to do that.
Yeah, I love this. This reminded me of my bandmates and I when we were teenagers. We would just put the stereo speakers in the window on a summer night and put on an album, and we would talk about each song while we drank wine that we weren't old enough to be drinking.
A little Boone's Farm action.
Yeah.
Um, no, it was TJ Swan.
Oh, never heard of that one. Was that a local Colorado winery?
I don't know if it. I mean, it was terrible and cheap. I think it was $1.49 a bottle,
Yeah,
and
probably
they
Sure it
had.
had
wasn't Mad Dog 2020. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like Boone's Farm. That was $1.49 a bottle back
Yeah.
in the day. And one of the bands that I was in at the time, the Escape Fetal Pigs, it was kind of like our pre-show or post-show ritual. We get a couple, you know, like Wild Apple Hill or Wild Mountain or Strawberry or some kind of, you know,
Yeah.
garbage. And between the four of us, we'd drink this $1.50 bottle of wine. You know, it was
yeah, the names
terrible.
of it. The brand was TJ Swan, and they had one wine called Mellow Days, and then they had another TJ Swan Easy Nights.
Nice. That sounds like a bad cologne, you know?
Easy nights, but rough mornings. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Yeah. It's not going to be digested. You're going to have a rough morning. It's all going to come back out in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you just can't drink too much of that stuff. Your body's like, no, no, I'm rejecting the poison. I'm
No.
dead. Nope. We are not going to process that. You're just going to view that up later. Oh, well, Mark, we are gonna get out of here. We're gonna do our outro, but thanks again. I'm glad you had a good time. It's
Thanks,
always
Oh,
a
it
Mark.
was
pleasure to
awesome.
have you on.
Thank you both.
And just thank you for bringing so much insight and your experience and your insight into the guitar, the music. It's always wonderful to have that perspective, and just thank you again.
Thank you guys. Good to be
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. You can find Heavy Metal Horror on unsaneradio.com. Listen to full episodes or download to your device. You can find us on Facebook, Heavy Metal Horror Podcast. On Instagram, look for Montag Lewis, one word. Our YouTube page, Heavy Metal Horror Podcast. If you're watching, that's where you're at. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And if you know someone who'd like our show, tell them about us. This has been Montag, Master of Illusion.
And Chop Top.
Mark Briody.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, you're part of the
And
family. Come
that's
on.
right. You're part of the family now, man. And you've been watching and listening to, all right, Mark, you know the drill. Bring up the horns.
Come on.
Heavy Metal Horror.
This is Doug Helvering, and you have been listening to Heavy Metal Horror, the best podcast that you've never heard before.